Hey, good morning, everybody. Pastor Larry here. It is Tuesday morning, August the 17th, and I'm glad you're joining me for devotion time today. So let's jump right in and let's get to it today. Let me ask you something. What's the story of your life? What is the story of your life? When we start asking people what the story of their life is, people begin to talk about their struggles, where they've come from, what they've been through. And listen, here's what I can tell you today. No matter what the story and the specific struggle of your life is, I know for certain today, I know for certain that when I will connect my story to God's story, when I will connect what I've been through to what God has purposed for me, God has a greater story for me than I could ever write for myself. When my story connects to God's story, it's always because He has a greater story. Your story may be addiction. Your story may be abandonment. Your story may be abuse. Your story may be neglect. Your story may be molestation. Your story may be hardship. Your story may be your family situation wasn't the best. Your story may be poverty. There's all kind of stories that all of us carry into our life. But here's what I know, that when I connect my story to God's story, my story always comes out greater because of God's connection to my life. Jesus said in one place, if you lose your life for my sake, those who lose their life for my sake are going to find life. When you give up your life, when you give up your plan, when you give up your agenda, when you give up what you think everything is supposed to be, well, let me just say it like this. When you give up control of the direction of your life and you begin to say, God, I want my life to intersect with your story for my life, then listen, every time that my story connects to God's story, He always writes a better story for my life. No matter what it is that you have been through, no matter what it is you're facing right now. Psalm 57:2 says this, watch this. He says, I cry out to the Most High God, who will fulfill His purpose for me. God has a purpose for you, but watch this. God's purpose can't be fulfilled in your life when you're pursuing your own plan, when you're pursuing your own purpose, when you're living the life that you want to live, when you're trying to achieve the things that you want to achieve all by yourself and you're excluding the hand and the voice and the will of God from your life. That's why, see, some of us are in a struggle this morning. We're struggling with God over the condition of our life. We're struggling with God over the direction of our life. We're struggling with God over the way that we live our life. We're arguing with Him about the Word. I met with a group of men last night and we talked about being open, being receptive, having receptivity to the truth of God's Word, because it's the truth of God's Word that will bring freedom to your life. But when you are not open to receive, when there's no receptivity in your life, when you can't allow the Word to penetrate your life, when you can't allow His purpose and His will and His plan to penetrate past what you think you want and what you think you need and what you think you had to have, then you're going to continue to live a limited story. But when my story connects with God's story, when my story connects with His story, it is always a better story. Isaiah said, for just as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts are higher than your thoughts. Just like that, He said, I know different than what you know. I know better than what you know. I know more than what you know. So the sooner that you stop fighting against me, the sooner, one writer said it like this, the sooner that you allow God to win, the sooner you allow Him to win, the sooner you surrender, the sooner you say, okay, God, I give up. I can't keep fighting with you over the direction of my life. You win. I want my life to go in the direction that you want it to go. Paul said this, my old self has been crucified with Christ. It's no longer I that live, but Christ lives in me. So I live in this earthly body by trusting the Son of God who loved me and gave Himself for me. Listen, guys, there is no greater story than to give your life wholly and completely to God, to give your future wholly and completely to God, to give your desires wholly and completely to God. Pastor Jay Pike and I were talking about this just a few weeks ago, but we were talking about that when I acknowledge Him in all my ways, He will give me the desires of my heart. That doesn't mean that He gives me what I want. It means that He begins to put desires in my heart for the right things and the right purposes and the right causes. And I begin to follow hard after Him because I have heard His Spirit say, this is the way, walk therein. And when I let Him win, my story becomes greater. So whatever you're dragging through your life right now, whatever you think your story has been, whatever you think your history tells of you, God says, I want to connect my purpose, my story, to what you think your story is. And when I get through writing the story of your life, it's going to be better than anything you could ever imagine. Come on, today, let God begin to connect to your story. Let Him win and watch and see what God will do in your life. Be blessed today. Go out and have a great rest of the day. We'll check in with you soon. The Lord bless you as you go today.